Good evening. I'm Eric,
And I'm Eric.
and we are Eric's Drink Whiskey. Tonight, we are going to dive into the first of what will be several episodes where we talk about mash bills. All of our episodes up until now, we've talked about what the mash bill of the whiskey we've been drinking is, but now we're actually going to kind of break that down, let you know what kind of flavors you can expect from each of the profiles represented. So stick around, and we'll get right down to it.
All right. So as Eric was talking, we were basically going to go over the different mash bills that go into all the styles of whiskey that can be labeled whiskey legally. We're not going to dive into every mash bill today in this episode. That's for many episodes to come. Well, pun intended there.
Which, to kind of back up, the mash bill, if you haven't figured out, is the combination of grains that are used to actually distill the liquor itself.
But today we're actually going into rye whiskey. Now, rye whiskey is just one of many types of whiskeys that are out there. Just to name off some of the big boys, we have Scotch, we have Japanese whiskey, we have Irish whiskey, American whiskey, and then the subcategories in those are corn whiskey, bourbon, rye whiskey. Am I missing anything else?
Well, and then kind of under your umbrella of bourbon is where you get a lot of those branch offs. We've talked about high rye bourbons. We'll talk about high malts on down the road. You've also got your wheated bourbons, and any and all combination thereof. So a lot of branches there in American whiskey. But I think it's interesting that when we talk about American whiskey and look back in the history of whiskey in America, rye whiskey was where it all started in New England, because that was the most prevalent grain at the time. So we're drinking a little bit of history tonight, aren't we?
Oh yeah, and it wasn't until they got to the United States that they started incorporating corn into the recipes. Like corn in rye whiskey wasn't the original.
No, I was actually I've got a book I'm reading about the history of bourbon, and it's
Which
like
one?
I think it's just called The History of Bourbon.
Is it the Fred Minnick one?
It is.
That's a good one.
It is a good one. But the first chapter of it is nothing but looking at like the 8 dudes that claim to have invented bourbon, and it all spun out of these farmers from New England pushing west in Kentucky and the Ohio Valley, starting to use corn to make their whiskey because it grew so well there, rather than just rye. So.
Yeah.
So Eric and I are both drinking tonight as kind of our side pour, while we were just kind of shooting the shit back and forth, getting set up here. This is actually a great new find that we found. This is not the one we're going to feature tonight, but I just wanted to do a plug for it because Eric's a big turkey head, and that is Wild Turkey's Rare Breed Rye. It is barrel strength at 112.2 proof.
Yep. That's a blend of 4, 6, and 8-year-old rye whiskey,
and it is absolutely delicious. I was so stoked to find it finally yesterday when I was in the liquor store. I had to buy it, and I could not be happier. So what we're going to talk about tonight is actually what I think, and it was actually one of our friends on Instagram, the Bourbon Dram, had made a post about it earlier this week. Kind of universally considered one of the best values in whiskey right now, and that is this old Forester straight rye. Eric's got the little bigger liter bottle there. Mine's the 750. The 750 will run you $22.99, and it is 100 proof, which is, trying to find a whiskey at that price point, at that proof point, you're going to be hard pressed.
that age, it's right at 4 years old, and there are some rye whiskeys out there that are less than 4 years old that are quadruple the price. All right, so according to the TTB, that's the Alcohol Trade and Tobacco Bureau with the United States, a rye whiskey, a straight rye whiskey, American straight rye whiskey, has to be at least 51% rye, and then the rest of it can be any combination of cereal grain. With the rest of the percentage, that's corn, barley, wheat, rice, oat, so on and so forth. Eric, I believe you said that this one is a high malted rye.
It is based on the internet. What I could find, we're looking at a mash bill of 65% rye, 20% malted barley, and only 15% corn, which is really in the minority of straight ryes out there on the market, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really anxious to see kind of what flavor that gives us.
Just to go over what we're talking about with like high malting and stuff. From what I know and from the whiskeys that I've tried, malted barley is usually, I would safely say it's an afterthought in a lot of mainstream whiskeys. But regular, like if you see, I know we have a couple of ones that we like Chattanooga whiskey and Old Elk, and there's some other ones that incorporate high malt mash bills into their recipes. It's a way that I've seen that people use to hide young tasting whiskey. And not necessarily that this is young, because 4 years old is just fine. But they've found a way that increasing the malt content has increased the cereal notes in whiskey, and it's kind of hiding the sharpness of the corn and the sharpness of what a typical rye grain will taste like. So it's not your typical rye. It's got a little bit of a I hate using the word smooth, but a little more palatable flavor.
Right. And I think the other thing with barley, using that in a mash bill, I think that even a 4-year-old whiskey, like you take our favorite Evan Williams Bottled and Bond, you've still got a fair amount of corn there on the palate for 4 years, and I think using barley, you've still got the same fermenting action. The sugars are all there to actually make the alcohol. But when it comes down to brass tacks and you're looking at the actual distilled spirit, you've got less of that just young corn flavor in your mouth like you'd get with a 4-year-old primarily corn whiskey.
Right.
I think that's my 2 cents.
Well, that's a fair 2 cents. I'll tell you one thing though. Looking at this, it is dark.
It is dark for 100 proof. Yeah.
Dark for 100 proof and dark for 4 years old. I mean, it is dark.
Yeah, it's a beautiful color.
Yeah, I don't know what they did on the barrel. I mean, obviously it was a new charred oak barrel, but I don't know if there was anything secondary or not. But it is dark for 4 years old. And of course, it's a rye, so it's the rye is going to react a little bit harsher to the barrel, so it could be one thing.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people get different flavors from rye, and a lot of people, I think, have a love-hate relationship with rye. You either love it or you hate it. I don't know that's. I think some of that may be personal preference, but I think some of that's because they've had the wrong ryes. Frankly, I tend to like ryes and high rye bourbons that have a lot of that fruit flavor to them, the floral notes. I do like a little bit of spice, but that spice can be really off-putting, especially if it's a younger whiskey and a higher proof.
Right.
I will definitely delve into one of those on down the road. Do a little rye shootout for you guys in a couple of weeks with my Knob Creek collection. But let's taste this bad boy.
All right. Strong mint on the nose. Dark like medicinal cherry taste. Not like Robitussin, but like
it's a real herbal.
Yeah, very similar. Ooh.
Smells sweet though.
Not a lot of oak. I don't think you smell a lot of oak on that.
Getting a hint of that brown Foreman banana.
It's the trademark. Brown Foreman banana cherries. Slight vanilla, slight clove, licorice, little anise, not anise. Allspice. It's just
Spicy.
it's really Christmassy.
It's
really Christmassy. Like it's not harsh. It's not, you don't get that typical deal what you do with a rye. You get all. I get like if you're eating like those, those cordial cherries, and you're in the kitchen smelling all the smells at grandma's house, when she's cooking all the mess. I get all of those. It's just all kind of combined into one.
It's got a nice oiliness to it. Is it chill filtered? It doesn't say it's not, so it must be.
Some it is. Ooh. It's I still get mint on the taste. You got your vanillas and your caramels. Very herbal, vegetative.
Herbal. I get a lot of honey. It's really nice. It drinks, now that I know that it's a high malt, it drinks like a high malt. It's very light on the palate.
I get those bready notes, kind of in the back there.
It's got a real. It's going to sound weird. We'll probably be banned off of Bourbon Facebook or Instagram for it, but it's almost got like a cakey finish.
As long as you don't call Jack Daniel's bourbon, I think you're okay.
It's not.
That's one of the that's one of the big
the sticking points.
Sticking points.
Yeah, like the finish on it is, it's cake. It's sweet. It's bready.
Vanilla frosting.
Yeah.
Boozy cake.
Boozy cake. Is that your stage name?
Yeah. I like boozy navel. Boozy citrus. They're one of the guys that I follow for Wild Turkey. He's I love his tasting notes because usually if he likes something, the term boozy and some form of fruit is in there, and I always love that tasting note.
Kind of the more you sip on it, those baking spices come out. That cinnamon and that clove, the allspice. And then another one that I get with these high malts is raisin. Very faint, but it's there.
I don't necessarily get raisin on my palate, but I can see where you would get raisin. And no, that does not mean I get raisin.
As long as you can see where I get it, I guess.
Well, I think knowing the things I have heard you say you tasted raisin on, I think your raisin is my like sweet licorice note.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Not like black licorice. I would almost say like a combination of black licorice and like Twizzlers.
Like black licorice if it tasted good.
Yeah, black licorice that wasn't ass.
Sorry, Dad. That man can eat black licorice till there's no tomorrow.
My God.
I would recommend this to a non-rye drinker to get them to drink rye. It's very palatable. It's not spicy.
Rye that I would suggest to people, probably people don't have that money. So I'm glad that this exists. because the rye that I would suggest is like $50, and that's a big investment for something you might not like. For $20, this is definitely worth the
This
try.
is great. And still at 100 proof, if you're prone to, if you like, ice in your whiskey, you could throw an ice cube in there. I don't think it really hurt the flavor that bad.
And can somebody over here that doesn't like rye, I like this. Like, I am very particular on which rye whiskeys I like. I really do like this one. Now, Eric, give your mouth a little merry-go-round and try that rare breed again.
Don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I do.
Taste the difference.
I do know right off the bat, this rare breed's got, I think it's a true straight rye. That's it's a little. I get more corn off of it than anything.
Oh yeah, it's right at 51.
Damn, that's good. I almost get pine, like a resiny pine flavor off that rare breed. God, that's good. Anyway, so what we're gonna do over the next couple of weeks, and by couple I mean a lot. Eric and I are going to, in between these mini episodes, Eric is going to show off some of his knowledge, and next week will actually give us a history of one of his favorite ryes, a little more historical context for the whiskey itself and the brand. The week after is going to be doing a little tasting lineup of the Knob Creek Ryes. If you guys follow us on Instagram, you would have seen that, I guess a couple weeks ago, rounded out the rye collection with the straight rye, double oak, and the cask strength. And then the week after that, we're going to jump right into start cruising through the rest of the American whiskey mash bills with some high rye bourbon. Then we're going to kind of rinse, lather, repeat, give you some history, give you some tasting, all the way down to, I don't know what we'll consider the bottom, corn whiskey. I don't, in no particular order, but I don't know if corn, high malt, whatever. We'll cover them all.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. I would say this is definitely a big time buy at $20. Anybody that's interested in getting into rye whiskey, I would definitely give Old Forester Rye a try. 100 proof, 4 years old, $20. Can't beat it.
And if you like rye whiskey and have not tried Old Forester, give it a try. It is well worth the $20 to add that to your collection. It'll be one of your favorites. We can almost guarantee that. But per usual, don't forget to punch that like button. It's going to be showing up right down here in the bottom corner of the screen. And remember, follow us on Instagram at Eric's Drink Whiskey. That's where we're posting all the fun stuff we're buying and drinking, and the places we're going. We'll also put out news bits about when we've got new stuff coming out. The other way to get notified, though, is to subscribe to our channel and be sure to turn notifications on so you know when new videos drop. But until next time, thank you so much for tuning in.